Okay, okay, that's good. I can see my volume, and apparently I hit record. So, what's up, guys? This is Music Within Us. As you remember from my last video, I'm a Brony. So I watch My Little Pony Friendship is Magic. And as you also remember, I do fan fictions for the website, which is where you write fan fictions based off the show. Duh. So I found this amazing story on FimFiction, and I gave it my favorite. It is in my favorites. I'm going to go there now. It is called The Trixie Treatment. It's by someone named Derpy Ditsy Derpy Doo. I hope you heard all of that. Now, the story is amazing. It's got 192 likes and only 7 dislikes. I wish I was that good. So I'm going to read Chapter 1, Judgment on Ice. And in case this, never mind, it read it. Alright, so, here we go. Well, I might just be the dumbest pony in all Equestria. I'm about as dumb as a mute squirrel with a drinking problem. As the element of honesty, Applejack had as much trouble lying to herself as any pony else. Unfortunately, this means that she often finds herself having to come face to face with inconvenient truths. Tonight, for example, Applejack was coming to terms with the fact that she was probably going to die. Soon. It was the worst blizzard Ponyville had seen in 2 generations. Due to an unforeseeable scheduling error, several storms had been assembled simultaneously rather than being spread throughout the winter season. These misplaced storms had merged and grown well beyond the point where the rather understaffed Ponyville weather team could dissipate them. Current word on the street was that the town would have no choice but to batten down the hatches and wait out the storm. And I had to pick tonight out of all possible nights to be as stubborn as a mule knee-deep in a barrel of taffy. Applejack's cousin, Apple Cobbler, had come stumbling through the sleet and into the farmhouse at Sweet Apple Acres to implore her kin for help, several hours before the storm hit its peak. Golden Orchard's farm was woefully underprepared for the coming tempest, and Apple Rose, the matriarch of that brand of the Apple family, had sent out for help from all the surrounding farms. And I just had to go charging into the storm like a buffalo with its head stuck in a hornet's nest. With the snow squall brewing fiercely, Applejack had decided she did not have time to implore her friends for help. She had left the young apple cobbler to warm up by the fire. You know what? I'm going to take these off. To warm up by the fire and set off with her brother into the blinding snow. They had tried to stay together, but the howling winds had swallowed her brother's voice as they ran, and even his bright red coat had vanished into swirling whiteness. Soon his tracks, too, had been devoured by the moaning white monster that enveloped her. She had called till her voice ran hoarse and ragged with no reply but the roar of the storm. Now, alone and hopelessly lost, she dragged herself on through the icy flurry. "Now I'm as cold as a frozen apple, and I'm cold as..." Applejack's ability to formulate folksy similes was somewhat compromised by early signs of hypothermia. Her surroundings had seemed to blur together. She felt almost like she was lurching through a frozen dream, floating on the snowdrifts and tumbling down the icy anticlines. So finally, after what seemed like forever, but may well have been little more than a few minutes, Applejack glimpsed a distant flicker of light. "That's gotta be Golden Orchard's. I hope Big Mac's okay." As she grew closer, it became increasingly apparent that she was not approaching her intended destination. The glimmer of light came from a small window visible in what appeared to be little more than a miniature mountain of snow. Applejack shielded her eyes against the driving snow and squinted at the odd abode. It was a caravan, albeit half buried in the snow. A small purple sign was hung over the caravan's entrance, sporting an azure wand surrounded by sky-blue stars. The sign looked oddly familiar, but in her dazed state she wasn't quite able to put the pieces together. She raised a trembling hoof and knocked. There were several moments of surprised thumps and creaks, and then silence. The half-moon hatch opened a single cautious inch, and a gray-violet eye peeked out of the crack. "I'm awful sorry to be bothering you so late, but I think I'm at the end of my rope. Can you give me some shelter from the storm?" Applejack's teeth chattered violently. The door slammed shut immediately. "I'm really going to die out here. Dang it all, I'm not even going to be able to help out with winter wrap-up." The door burst wide open, and a brilliant blue unicorn exploded out of the caravan, dressed in a sweeping star-covered purple cloak and matching wizard's hat. "Rejoice, mere mortal! It is I, the great and powerful Trixie, your savior, your heroine, your—" Trixie trailed off mid-sentence. "Trixie has decided, in her supreme wisdom, that it is too cold to continue this conversation outside." Excuse me, my Trixie impersonation is a bit off. I thought of her as a brat. I really did think of her as a brat, so. Anyways, let's continue. With a flick of her tail and a swoop of her cloak, she rushed hurriedly back inside, leaving the door open for her trembling visitor. Applejack's chattering teeth were stilled, if only by the fact that she was now standing slack-jawed. "Why, in Celestia's name, of all the ponies in Equestria, did it have to be this one?" She heaved herself up the small step and slumped into Trixie's caravan. The magician extraordinaire was about to shut the door herself when a billowing gust beat her to it. As the wind rattled the walls of the small wooden caravan, the two stood in silence, staring at one another. Trixie cleared her throat, stepping daintily onto a small wooden stool, rose up onto two hoofs, and continued, "Welcome to the humble abode of Equestria's greatest unicorn. The one, the only, the great and powerful Trixie. Be amazed that—" Trixie cut her speech short again. Her guest had quite clearly lost consciousness. I don't know what's up with my tongue today. For some reason, my mouth is a bit dry. And I forgot to pour myself some drink. Applejack found herself in... Oh, I guess I forgot to warn you guys. Now, it fades out into a different part of the chapter, just so you know. And I know this because it has a horizontal rule right there. That's how we separate chapters. Okay, so far, Applejack was caught in the middle of a cold storm, and she thought she was going to die. She couldn't find golden orchards. And then she finds this caravan, which turns out to be the home of Trixie Lunamoon, who left because she, I guess she felt guilty about almost enslaving Ponyville. So, in a way, I'm actually glad that Derpy Ditsy Derpy Doo made this story, because my curiosity just grows whenever I wonder, are they going to make possible fan fictions about Trixie? This and others that I've found answers that. So, woohoo! Anyways, let's continue reading. Applejack found herself enveloped in warmth as she swam in and out of waking, her mind slowly nudging thoughts around, idly plucking ideas out of the thick, moist haze. Storm, snow, cold, help, Mac, cold, so cold, Trixie. Trixie! Applejack gasped, her eyes fluttering open to see the arrogant blue mare herself staring down at her. She burst up, splashing around frantically for a few panicked moments. "What in the hay is going on here?" she squawked, desperately trying to assess her surroundings. She was sitting in a small rusty metal bathtub, waist deep in steaming water. The bathtub sat in the center of the small wooden room. Trixie was seated at the other end of the steel tub, her forehooves dipped in the water, staring at AJ with a perplexed look on her face. "Are you quite ready?" she asked, tilting her head inquisitively. "Am I a what now?" "Are you ready? Listening carefully, fully awake, in possession of all your senses? May Trixie begin?" She tapped her hoof impatiently on the rim of the bathtub. Applejack was more than a little disoriented, but she nodded, if only out of confusion. Trixie levitated the small wooden stool over to her and climbed onto it. She paused, appearing to remember something important, and then climbed off. After retrieving her hat and cloak from a peg in the corner of putting them on, she clambered back onto the stool and rose up onto her hooves. Pause. Okay, so, the reason I say pause is because I want to explain something about the hat and cloak thing. Trixie, the first appearance she made was in an episode called Ghostbusters, where she bragged of her talent when really it appeared to be only like a bunch of side tricks and illusions, I think. So she made up a story to get the people interested and then ended up biting her in the butt real hard. Now, the reason I'm explaining this, the first appearance she made and the second, she donned a special wizard's hat and a cloak, well, a cape more like it, which had stars on them. It was purple with lightly yellow stars. So this was always her outfit because she was a wandering magician. And she stumbled across Ponyville, therefore her first appearance. Okay, now I'm going to continue reading. Aha! Thank your fates, peon. The great and powerful Trixie, in her might and mercy, has decided that you shall be spared a miserable death in this terrible storm. You may stay the night in Trixie's Palace of Wonder. Trixie glanced at Applejack expectantly from under the brim of her hat. You have permission to shower Trixie with gratitude and adoration now. Applejack took a moment to shake off the dizziness. Well, that ain't kind of answer at all. What am I doing in your bath? She asked irritably. Stand in awe at the sheer magnitude of Trixie's intellect, crowded. Hello.
You finished your homework?
Yeah.
Where's it at?
I told you, I put it away.
We have to print out the other one.
Okay.
So when you get a chance, we have to print out to make sure everything works out fine before the day goes by and we find out it didn't work. So when you finish doing what you're doing, you got a chance to print, let me know.
Okay.
Okay? Don't
okay.
wait too long.
Alright. Just so you know, the thing is, I did my homework before I started this video. Now, anyways, let's see. Where was I? Oh yeah. Crowed Trixie, evidently more than a little proud of herself. Trixie read in a book that blankets are useful for saving freezing ponies because they work by keeping heat in, which only works if ponies have body heat to begin with. In a brilliant flash of insight, Trixie decided that a hot bath would be the best way to warm you back up, so with undeniable skill, she heated some water. Before I go on, let me explain. Trixie, always, thinks she's magnificent. So, she speaks of herself in third person, as if she's not your equal. I think. That's why she does it. I don't know. But, what I love, this is probably going to be a spoiler alert to some of you. I don't know, but I'm going to explain it anyway, because I'm not sure. See, Derpy Ditsy Derpy Doo comes up with a backstory as to why she has so much confidence in one of the chapters later on in the story, which is where things get really interesting. We'll get to that later on in other videos. Okay? Alright, so let's see. Trixie nodded at a small, simmering, and blackened stub in the corner, its glowing coals wafting warmth through the cramped room. A crooked pipe, equally as rusty as the bathtub, served as a makeshift chimney. Some section of the pipe seemed to have been patched together with used tin cans. She drew a bath and put you in it, and lo and behold, your life has been saved. Applejack tried to process this information, all the while attempting to filter out the smattering of self-adulation. So far, the story is still very interesting, and this is going to be the second time I've read it. I've actually emailed Derpy Ditsy Derpy Doo, gaining her permission to do a reading for this. So, do not worry, I am not going to get sued for copyright or anything. Then again, I don't know. No, I'm just kidding. That being that, you didn't have to stand looming over me, like, almost scared me half to death. Trixie pouted. The great and powerful Trixie was holding your head up so you didn't slump down and drown in the water. Oh. Applejack cast her eyes down, ashamed. However, her confidence slowly began to flow back into her as she regained her bearings. Thank you kindly, Miss Trixie. I reckon that about makes us two about even. Even? Piped Trixie indignantly. Even nothing! The great and powerful saved your life. You owe her your eternal gratitude. Eternal gratitude, my hoof. You tried to enslave me and all my friends. Trixie deflated rapidly. She removed her hat, showing a pair of blue eyes flattened against her pale mane. Hopping down off the stool, she approached Applejack. You were one of the ponies Trixie hurt, while using the amulet? She was almost cowering behind the hat as she spoke, peeking over the wide brim at Applejack, who sat defiantly in the tub, glaring back at her. Lips are dry. I should get myself some chapstick later. No, that was me, not the story. Now you ain't gonna tell me you've gone and clean forgotten about what you did now, are you? Asked Applejack, splashing her hoof in the bath water as an act of self-punctuation. Trixie can't remember what happened after she put on the alicorn amulet. Did she do something very bad to you? You're darn right you did. You tickled me something fierce. Made me into your slave near as, cried Applejack, puffed with self-righteous indignation. There was a long silence following this remark, broken only by the wind rustling under the door. Trixie tickled you? Trixie's azure cheeks were now colored a deeper shade of red than the ruby amulet in question. I'm going to bleed soon with this lip thing going on. Anyways, back to the story. Applejack was suddenly unsure whether the steam was coming off the bath or off Trixie. She made you do demeaning sexual things? What? No! Applejack was now equally flustered. Did the great and powerful Trixie tickle you with her tongue or her hooves? What did she do? Trixie seemed to be riding the borderline between moist eyes and full-on tears. Applejack's ears burned. Now hold on there, it weren't nothing like that. You tickled me with feathers. Were you tied down at the time? Were ropes and leather involved? Did Trixie's darker side get the better of her? That's some crazy BDSM shit. Damn. Ooh. I'm not supposed to curse. Remind myself later to ask a YouTuber how to censor words. It'll probably be too late by then, but whatever. Back to the story. Trixie was in a full-blown panic, her eyes already moistening with tears and her cheeks bright red. No, just don't worry about it. It wasn't as bad as all that. Trixie sniffed miserably and wiped her now runny nose on her cape. Trixie was going to apologize. Wait, whoops. I didn't see the thing there. Trixie was going to apologize afterwards, but then some pony drew hurtful graffiti on her caravan again, and she thought it best if she just left. She did apologize to Twilight, though. Now, I'm going to explain about that. Okay, in the second appearance, which involves the events that they're talking about. She tried to get revenge, so she bought something very powerful and very dangerous. It was called the Alicorn Amulet, and it increased a unicorn's power by tenfold, I think. But it has side effects. It's sort of like Spider-Man with Venom. When the black suit made its first appearance in the Spider-Man comics, he was driven to the point of nearly killing someone because the venom brought out all the bad in him. It's the same thing with this Alicorn Amulet and Trixie, which is actually why that's one of my favorite shows, because it made a reference to that, in a way. So, now I'm going to head back to the story, alright? Applejack's irritation evaporated. Trixie was a disheveled mess, only distinguishable from some kind of traveling hobo by the stars on her cape and her air of confidence. She lived in this ramshackle wooden wreck, meager evidence of her travels lying on display around the room. For once, she seemed so much more genuine than their previous encounters. The facade of haughtiness seemed to be worn almost as an act of self-parody than true conceit. Don't worry about it, Applejack said as she made an effort to clamber out of the tub. Trixie hastily nudged her back in. She levitated her cape and hat onto a nearby peg, and Applejack could almost see her mentally rolling up her sleeves. Whatever happened, it's clear that the great and powerful Trixie has done some harm to you while she was behaving in a manner that cannot be described as great. But put your fears and apprehensions aside. We may be even now, but by the end of the night you will be in Trixie's debt. Trixie is going to take the best possible care of you she can for the night, and then you can report back to Twilight that Trixie is a changed mare. Trixie wiped her eyes and grinned. Prepare yourself, commoner. You are about to receive the Trixie Treatment. Applejack gulped. This is going to be as awkward as a spring day in the fall. Okay guys, so that's chapter 1. I cannot wait to post another video. In fact, I think I might do another one immediately after this. Because I want you guys to see where this goes, so that you don't make any negative feedback. And if you make any negative feedback on my reading, I do not care, because sometimes I make mistakes, especially when I have a dry mouth. So just leave a comment below telling me what you guys think of the story so far, and I'll be leaving a link for the video in the comments of this story, so that Derpy Ditsy Derpy Doo can check it out, because she said to leave it afterwards. See you next time.